I'm literally wearing a bag. Do you ever feel like a plastic bag, like a plastic bag, like a plastic bag? Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Emily. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy that you stumbled upon this video. Today, I'm excited about this video because I'm actually really excited. Oh my god, my hair. I got a haircut. It's just, I'm like coming to terms with my haircut, you know, I'm like in that phase. I never like read according to the season. I always read books that are like not in touch with what season it is, and I think part of the reason I do that is because I like to escape into another place. This summer I basically read just fantasy books. I didn't read any summer romance. I didn't read any like cute little trendy like non-fiction. I just read fantasy. I read Court of Thorns and Roses. I'm reading Throne of Glass right now. I read Fourth Wing, so it's been heavy fantasy. This fall, I definitely want to continue reading fantasy and like broadening my fantasy vocabulary, but I also want to read some thrillers because it's fall and some summer romances and maybe like a few little nonfiction books. So I have my TBR cart here. I can link it down below if you want to check it out. My hair. I'm just gonna get started now. Right now I have just started my tandem reading journey of the two penultimate books, I guess, of the Throne of Glass series. There's Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. I'm kind of intimidated because sometimes I look at it, I'm like, oh, I'm reading a book that's this long, and I'm just like, but that's fine. The thing about reading fantasy and like reading longer books at least is I feel like a little behind on my reading goals, but I think after I finish these I'm gonna get into some just ones where I can breeze through. So I have these two, and then I also have Kingdom of Ash. So I'm gonna finish those three books, which will probably take me 2 to 3 weeks to finish them just because they are like 700 pages each. So after that, I'm not sure if I'm gonna dive right into Crescent City, but I would like to read the Crescent City books this fall so that I can get ready for the January release of the third book. And then I'll pretty much be caught up with my Sarah J. Maas, which is very exciting. So there's The House of Earth and Blood, which is the first one, and The House of Sky and Breath, which is the second one. Don't read the backs of books and series that like you haven't read yet. Like if you were to read the back of specifically the fifth book of the series, The Queen of Shadows, like so much would be given away. So I will only read the back of the first book when I read series like descriptions so that I don't spoil anything for myself or for you guys. Bryce Quinlan had the perfect life, working hard all day and partying all night until a demon murdered her closest friends, leaving her bereft, wounded, and alone. When the accused is behind bars, but the crimes start up again, Bryce finds herself at the heart of the investigation. She'll do whatever it takes to avenge their deaths. Hunt Athler is a notorious fallen angel. Now enslaved to the archangels he once attempted to overthrow, his brutal skills and incredible strength have been set to one purpose: to assassinate his boss's enemies, no questions asked. But with a demon wreaking havoc in the city, he's offered an irresistible deal. Help Bryce find the murderer and his freedom will be within reach. As Bryce and Hunt dig up into Crescent City's underbelly, they discover a dark power that threatens everything and everyone that they hold dear, and they find in each other a blazing passion, one that could set them both free if they'd only let it. With unforgettable characters, sizzling romance, and page-turning suspense, this richly inventive new fantasy series by #1 New York Times bestselling author Sarah J. Maas delves into the heartache of loss, the price of freedom, and the power of love. This was rated 4.48 stars, which is amazing, and then the second one is rated 4.51 stars. I hear amazing things about this series. I have them reserved on my Libby, but I do think I want to own them. Before I get into more fantasy TBR, I just want to go over to my cart and kind of pick out the books that I want to read this fall. So I definitely want to read The House Across the Lake, which is by Riley Sager. I've had this since my birthday, since March of this year, and I only have 3 thrillers on my physical TBR because I really go through thrillers quite quickly. This book is so pretty. I love the cover. This book has always sounded like something right up my alley. Casey Fletcher, a recently widowed actress trying to escape a streak of bad press, has retreated to the peace and quiet of her family's lake house in Vermont. Armed with a pair of binoculars and several bottles of bourbon, and she passes the time watching Tom and Catherine Royce, a glamorous couple living in the house across the lake. I mean, like, that setup is exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you. They make for good viewing. Tech innovator Tom is powerful, and a former model Catherine is gorgeous. One day on the lake, Casey saves Catherine from drowning, and the two strike up a budding friendship. But the more they get to know each other, and the longer Casey watches, the more it becomes clear that Catherine and Tom's marriage isn't as perfect as it appears. When Catherine suddenly vanishes, Casey immediately suspects Tom of foul play. Shouldn't she just almost drown in the water? That's suspicious. I don't know. What she doesn't realize is that there was more to the story than meets the eye, and that shocking secrets can lurk beneath the most placid of surfaces. I'm already suspicious of a few things. Yeah, this sounds great. And then I have these two other, like, smaller soft covers, which seem, I feel like I can get through these, like, pretty quickly. There's Girl A, and then The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. This is kind of like an Agatha Christie, like, And Then There Were None. I did not like her book, The Paris Apartment. I have not read The Guest List, but apparently it's better. And then, I don't know, people say this one's fine. So, I mean, it's just so short. Like, after reading these 700-page books, like, this one's like a little over 300 pages. I just feel like I'm going to breeze through these. And then Girl A. Lex Grace doesn't want to think about her family or her identity as Girl A, the girl who escaped, the eldest sister who freed her older brother and younger siblings. It's been easy enough to avoid her parents. Her father never made it out of the house of horrors he created, and her mother spent the rest of her life behind bars. But when her mother dies in prison and leaves Lex and her siblings the family home, she can't run from her past any longer. Together with her sister Evie, Lex intends to turn the home into a force for good, but first she must come to terms with her siblings and with the childhood they share. These will be, I feel like, pretty quick reads. Let's see, what else? In terms of, like, cute little romances that I want to read, I have not read this yet, Happy Place. My friend Stephanie actually lent it to me. I've read all 3 of Emily Henry's other books. I'm not like a huge Emily Henry gal. I lean more Colleen Hoover with my romances. Like, I like stuff to be a little bit more dramatic and like weighted and have like something else going on that's like a little more like dark, I guess. But I feel like after reading the Throne of Glass series and like all this fantasy stuff, I'm kind of craving a book like this. So my first like year or so of reading, I read a lot of books like this that were just kind of like quick, like cute little books. Now that I've read all of these fantasy books, I'm just kind of like craving this. It's nice to have like that balance. Yeah, obviously it was a super hot book of the summer. I also want to read Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I read The Bodyguard, I absolutely loved it. And then Paley Pham, I believe her name is, read this book in one of her vlogs. And I think she might have said it was like a 6-star book for her. I do really, really love Catherine Center's writing. Like, you just kind of laugh and you cry and feel really connected to the characters. So I think this will be like a pretty quick, fun read. It's such a cute cover too. I also want to read romantic comedy, which was a book of the month, April 2023 pick. Oh, I didn't read like what any of those were about. Happy Place, I think, is about this couple that they break up, but they're part of this like larger friend group, and they've been together for like a long time. They break up and then they go on vacation with that friend group, I think, but they don't tell their friends that they're broken up, so they have to pretend they're still dating. Hello Stranger, I think, is about this woman who gets in an accident and develops face blindness, so she can't like recognize her partner, I think. Hold on. Yeah, I guess she meets someone after she develops face blindness, which seems like a weird concept or story, but I have faith that it's like very, very well written because Catherine Center's amazing. Okay, this is romantic comedy, which I've also heard good things about. This description is so long. A comedy writer thinks, I'm just gonna read like the little log line at the top. A comedy writer thinks she's sworn off love until a dreamy pop star fills the script on all of her assumptions. A hilarious, observant, and deeply tender novel from the best-selling author of Eligible Rodham and Prep. Palette cleansing, cute, love the cover, adorable. Some other little romance books that I might want to check out, I have on my Libby. I might end up buying just because the wait time is really long. I do want to read The Summer I Turned Pretty. I want to know what's up. I want to know what's good. It might be a little too YA for me, but I do want to read it. And then there's also the other book, It's Not Summer Without You, and then We'll Always Have Summer. I just want to read it. I didn't realize that they were published 2009 through 2011. They're a lot older than I thought that they were. And I also want to read Magnolia Park's series. For some reason, I feel like fall is like a good time to read those books. I don't know if it's because the cover kind of looks autumnal, but I just have that feeling. Those are my main sort of like palette cleansing, cute, rom-com-esque. We have a few thrillers, we have a few rom-coms. Oh, another book that I do want to read that I'm probably gonna push into winter is The Secret History. I feel like this is like definitely like a January, February book, but I'm not as like threatened by the length of this book anymore, for sure. Like, this is definitely shorter than a lot of the books I've actually been reading recently. It's like 500 something, I think. New England college elite cult. that has been on my list for so long, and I've been wanting to read it for such a long time. It's just the time has not come yet, but I'm hoping that it will come either like late this fall or like early winter. Same for Wicked and Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister, which are basically like villain origin stories of, well, obviously Wicked is a Tony Award-winning Broadway musical turned movie, which is about the origin story of the Wicked Witch of the West and Glinda, the Good Witch of the North. And then Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister is the villain origin story of the stepsisters. I hear this one is better. I would also just love to be that person that reads a little like Joan Didion or Everything I Know About Love or Trick Muir, just like get a little nonfiction in there. We'll see. I do also really want to read Garcelle Beauvais' biography. It just seems like a really nice, again, like a nice palette cleanser, and I really like her. Hopefully I will also get to this. Now, getting back into fantasy, I feel like after I read some of the thrillers / romances that I just mentioned, I'm gonna take a deep dive back into fantasy. So I have some physical TBR books here. This one is called Night's Edge. It's by the wonderful Liz Caron. Signed this book for me because I was in a play Liz wrote and I love her and I'm so excited to read this. I think it's a vampire book. I'm always careful not to disturb Mom. A rude awakening can definitely set her off, especially if she wakes up hungry. I can't forget what she is, what she could do to me. No extracurriculars, no inviting friends over, and definitely no dating. The most important rule, tell no one of Izzy's hunger, the one only blood can satisfy. But Mia is in her 20s now and longs for a life of her own, one where she doesn't have to worry about everyone discovering their terrible secret or breathing down her neck. When Mia meets rebellious musician Jade, she dares to hope she's found a way to leave her home and her mom behind. It just might be Mia's only chance of getting out alive. Seems like the mommy dearest of vampires. So I'm really excited to read this one. I love Liz's writing. I love the characters that she creates, and I'm so excited. A book that's been on my TBR for so long is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I definitely want to read this fall. I feel like this is an incredibly fall-oriented book. I think it's similar to The Age of Adeline, which is apparently not affiliated with this, and I just find that insane because it's like basically the same concept. It's this girl that like doesn't age, so she just lives through all of these centuries, you know, not aging alone. We also have The House of the Cerulean Sea, which I do want to read. It's like a cute little quirky fantasy book about like this like orphanage on an island, like keeping the children in the orphanage safe. This like quirky guy. I don't know, it seems cute. So some other fantasy books that I want to read that I don't have physical copies of. I would love to read the Cruel Prince trilogy, which I've reserved on my Libby, which I will probably end up reading on my Kindle. There's 3 books. There's The Cruel Prince, The Wicked King, and The Queen of Nothing. The Cruel Prince is the first one. I'll just read the back of it real quick. Of course I want to be like them. They're beautiful as blades, forged in some divine fire. They will live forever. And Cardan is even more beautiful than the rest. I hate him more than all the others. I hate him so much that sometimes when I look at him, I can hardly breathe. Jude was 7 years old when her parents were murdered. Yikes! And she and her 2 sisters were stolen away to live in the treacherous High Court of Fairy. 10 years later, Jude wants nothing more than to belong there despite her mortality, but many of the Fae despise humans, especially Prince Cardan, the youngest and wickedest son of the High King. To win a place in the court, she must defy him and face the consequences. In doing so, she becomes embroiled in palace intrigues and deceptions, discovering her own capacity for bloodshed. But as civil war threatens to drown the court of Fairy in violence, Jude will need to risk her life in a dangerous alliance to save her sisters and Fairy itself. That sounds really great. It sounds right up my alley. It's a quick trilogy, like the books aren't like super long, so that's cool. This might not happen this fall, but I'll probably start them in the fall and finish them in the winter. The Shatter Me series, which I also have not read. Let me pull up the first book. There's like 11 books in the series, but they're not like 11 books that are this long. Anyway, one touch is all it takes. One touch and Juliet Ferrars can leave a fully grown man gasping for air. One touch and she can kill. No one knows why Juliet has such an incredible power. It feels like a cursed burden that one person could never bear. But the reestablishment sees it as a gift, sees her as an opportunity for a deadly weapon. Juliet has never fought for herself before, but when she's reunited with the one person who cared about her, she finds a strength she never knew she had. And don't mystify me, the shocking 5th book in the Shatter Me series. It's like about books 2 through 4. Anyway, that's my personal fall TBR. I really hope that I can get through these books. I'd say anywhere from like 20 to 30 books I'm aiming for. My reading goals for this year are a little behind just because I've been reading longer books and I've been less concerned on the product of my reading and more just like enjoying the books even if they're longer and take me a little longer to read. So I'm like 3 or 4 books behind my reading goals. If I need to, I might do another like 24-hour reading vlog and just kind of like get caught up. Even though like I've been reading technically slower because I'm finishing books slower, I actually feel like I've been reading more pages quicker. They've just been longer books. That's my fall TBR. If you have any other books, like specifically fantasy books that you recommend that I check out, please comment below, or any other like palette cleansing romance I'm really looking for as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this inspires you to read this fall. Fall is also just a fun time to get back into reading because you kind of still have that like back to school vibe like ingrained in your blood in September, at least where I'm from. That's when we all go back to school, so it kind of just gets me excited to like feel studious and read, even though these are not the types of books that I would ever read in school, but that's fine. Anyway, I hope you guys have a fantastic start to your autumnal season, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a wonderful week and weekend. Bye.